welcome to lesson 14 of the Special Operations Candidate course. We're going to be talking about administrative drops as one of the different reasons for attrition. So as you see here, I've written mental unpreparedness, physical unpreparedness, competency, and medical. Those are the four broad categories of why you would be in the administrative drop group. So let's talk about why mental unpreparedness would lead you into this group. First of all, when we talked about mental unpreparedness, we talked about character, confidence, and fear as the three major groups involved there. So, as far as character goes, what did we talk about that might be a reason why you would get to here? Character issues such as lack of a serious positive character trait like integrity. If you show a violation of your own personal integrity in such a way that the instructor staff believes it's a serious character issue, they're very likely to think that it's not something that could be short-term correctable. And administrative drops, as we're going to see over and over again, is anything that is not short-term correctable. The staff always has the discretion to decide whether this is something that can be quickly remediated and you continue with pipeline, or whether you sidestep pipeline for a very short period, maybe weeks to a month or two, and you can rehabilitate or recuperate or recover or remediate that problem, whatever it is. This is relatively short term once again. Or if long-term remediation is necessary or not even possible. And if that's the case, you're going to be put in the administrative drop category, which means you will be dropped from pipeline to re-enter possibly at a later date. And we'll talk about possibly in a few minutes. So if you show a serious lack of positive character, like integrity violation, stealing somebody's gear, is one of the biggest ones that comes to mind right this second. So you've got this mentality to protect yourself at all costs. So if you lose a piece of equipment or gear during the pipeline, a lot of them will warn you about the effects of taking somebody else's stuff. But essentially, if you show that, not only are you showing that you're pretty much not interested in your buddy's welfare, but that you're out for yourself, so that's either a problem in itself, or you're showing that although you know you shouldn't have done that, you went ahead and did what you had to do to protect your own butt anyway. And that shows an integrity problem. So either way, those are both going to kind of be examples of a serious character violation that the instructors are going to take seriously, to the point where often they don't believe it's quickly remediated. And because of that, you're going to be administratively dropped, thinking that, hey, you either got some serious work to do on yourself, or there's no fix for you, okay? And with either one of those two attitudes, you're going to wind up here, like I said. We got confidence, which doesn't really play into administrative drops. The key of administrative drops is that it's an instructor or staff-based decision to remove the candidate. It's not the candidate's decision. It's not a quit, okay? So when we talked about mental unpreparedness, as far as confidence, that kind of leads to quitting, okay? The elective decision to quit made by the candidate. We talk about false expectations and core beliefs problems. Those are, again, leading to an elective decision to quit by the candidate. This is not an elective decision to quit. This is staff deciding that you're done, okay? So confidence doesn't really play in. That's kind of quitting. But we talk about fear as well inside mental unpreparedness. And when we talk about fear, this is something that maybe, again, you are unable to conquer that fear without lengthy remediation. If they believe lengthy remediation is necessary, if you cannot overcome a fear, remember I said you've only got a certain period of time in which to do it, because pipeline is very fast-paced normally. If you cannot overcome your fear, this leads you to long-term remediation. This is your, if I could spell remediation properly. Long-term remediation means it's too long for pipeline to kind of sidestep you and let you come back later. So they're just going to kind of say, hey, go work on what you have to. If that's the only reason, if that's your only problem, if you look good in all these other areas, we may give you positive recommendations, in which case you'll be more likely to be accepted back in the future should you choose to go back into that pipeline. That's going to kick you out in administrative drop category. Physical unpreparedness essentially means you are failing a performance standard. Okay, that's abbreviations. If you fail a performance standard, whether it's physical in nature, whether it's competency, when you fail a performance standard repeatedly, you're showing that you cannot keep up with the requirements of pipeline. It's nothing personal to put you in this category. It's simply, hey, I'm sure maybe you could do this, you're just not keeping up with the program right now. We don't have time to hang back and wait for you. If we can't sidestep you for a little bit and have you correct yourself and jump back in with the class behind you, which sometimes happens, if it's going to take you longer than that or a lot more work than that, you'll wind up here. Again, if you fix this problem, you are welcome to come back to training. Okay, that's normally what you get. Fail a performance standard. When we talk about competency, this could be academic or it could be technical. And let me give you an example of academic competency. Okay, let's say, I like to use diving as an example because it fits a whole bunch of stuff. So let's say academically you have to learn about diving before you can actually participate. You have to learn dive physics. You have to learn how diving works, how it interacts with your body to be underwater and under pressure, and the gases you're breathing and the pressure those gases are under. So you learn a lot of academic material. If you can't keep up with the academics of the material, and make no mistake about it, special operators are not just tough, strong, muscular people with, high levels of mental resolve. They're smart as well. A lot of these careers require you to be very intelligent and very able to grasp concepts. Not necessarily complex concepts, but you do have to be intelligent. Okay, you're probably not going to be dumb as a rock and make it. So if you have academic trouble and you're not showing academic competence, you might fail an academic performance standard, in which case, if you do that a few times, you're going to wind up in the same situation. Hey, if you can correct this problem, you're welcome to come back. If not, we can't remediate you in a very short period of time. If you fail technical competency, again, we'll use diving as an example. You're going to have a diving competency exam. Depending on the pipeline, it's going to test you under various circumstances, from basic abilities with some of your dive gear to somewhat advanced abilities where maybe you can't see, for example, everything's blacked out and you have to deal with malfunctions and so on. Okay, that's a technical competency exam. If you fail the technical performance standard because you're just not, let's say it's taking you too long to do stuff, you're running out of time, if you're not doing things in the right order, if you're making a safety violation, okay, but you're still making an effort, then you haven't quit by definition. You haven't electively decided to give up. That would take you out of admin drop and it would put you in a quit category like mental unpreparedness. But we're talking about if you don't quit, if you continue to show effort and you're just not making the cut on a technical performance standard, you're probably going to be removed from training if they cannot quickly remediate you and get you back into the flow of things with the next class coming through. If they can't do that, technical, you may get an opportunity to come back. You may not get an opportunity to come back depending on if they think you can resolve that outside the pipeline. If it is something like diving, of course, you could leave, attend some diving classes, get some familiarity, some more comfort in the water maybe. Anything that could help you. And then you can come back and have the blessing of your instructors, provided that they believe that you're capable of passing that technical, sticking point that you had. So that's an example of technical performance standard or competency issue that you have a hard time with. Medically, we have illness, injury, and failure to pass a physical or a medical screening. Okay, so illness and injury happen to pretty much anyone. Okay, those are just, we call those bad luck. So although there are plenty of things you could do to try and minimize your chance of illness or injury, and we will cover those in depth when we get to physiology and start talking about your body, we're going to give you as many ways as we can to make yourself kind of bulletproof, okay? It doesn't really mean you're really going to be bulletproof, obviously, but we're going to make you as injury and illness proof as possible if you follow our recommendations as far as the best ways that we know, and absolutely minimize your chances of illness and injury, okay? Because we want you to succeed through your pipeline. We don't even want you to have bad luck. So we're going to actually protect against bad luck as much as we can. Because bad luck is not all bad luck. Sometimes it's just bad preparation, right? So illness and injury can happen to anyone. If those are your reasons and you're incapable of quickly remediating, once again being sidestepped and joining the class behind you, if that's not possible, if it's a long-term remediation or a long-term recovery, you're going to wind up here. They're going to say, hey, you're welcome to come back next time as long as your illness or injury has healed and you can physically perform and you've passed the medical screening second time around. Hey, come on back. We're sure you can try it again and probably make it, right? Or you could have a failure of a medical screening. And what I mean by medical screening is a specific physical. So for example, I'm going to use diving again. I love to use diving as an example. You're going to have a specific dive physical, and the reason is diving is not a normal human environment. Diving is an environment that we put ourselves in because of operational needs that affects our body differently than being in the normal atmosphere in air and nitrogen. So because of that, your body has to be kind of checked out to make sure that you're going to be physically able to dive and that you can handle that physical activity. You may not pass that. So if your career requires diving as an operational requirement, they're going to give you a dive medical screening. If you fail your dive medical screening, you're just not going to be able to do that career, period. Okay? The good thing about failing a medical screening, not that there's something good about it, but the best thing about it is if that's your reason for attrition from one pipeline, you can easily join another pipeline that doesn't have that operational requirement with very good chances of success. Because if you haven't quit, and depending on where you're at in the pipeline, but the farther along, the farther closer to the end you are, if you run into something like this, the higher your chances of passing another pipeline, okay? Because either you had bad luck with illness or injury, or you had bad luck because you didn't realize that you weren't fit, let's say for diving, for this example. If you do a job in special operations that doesn't require diving, you should be good to go, right? Because you've already shown that you have the mental ability, you've got the physical ability, you've got the academic or the technical ability. You're just not passing the physical part. There's something weird about your body that doesn't jive with the job. So if that's the case, you can easily shift pipelines and go to another pipeline in special operations, fulfill the same core values that you have and purpose for your life and stuff like that. And you probably have very high chances of success in that scenario, especially if you've made it towards the end of the first pipeline. Unfortunately, they're probably going to give you this kind of stuff right away, so you might not make it very far in pipeline. You might not know how ready you are for another one. But again, if you're in the medical category, that's all pretty much kind of bad luck kind of stuff. So if that's your reason for leaving pipeline, you've got a decent chance if you correct that issue, or if it's not important anymore, if you don't need to do that particular activity anymore that you failed the med screening for, you've got a pretty good shot at passing another pipeline, okay, if everything else is all in order. So that's admin drops. The keys to remember, these are instructor and staff-based decisions to remove the candidate from training rather than an elective decision to quit, which is covered in some of the other forms of attrition that we talked about. And it encompasses a whole bunch of different stuff, from mental things that may or may not be remediated quickly to physical things which are generally fixable, but they might take time. Competency things and technical things, again, stuff that's fixable, but it may take time, maybe too much that the instructor staff's not willing to give you that much time. Or medical, I mean, you just had bad luck. But we're going to try and minimize that stuff as much as possible. And we're going to try and minimize all of this as much as possible. And that is part of the reason we've designed the curriculum the way that we have. So that's pretty much it for this lesson. The next one's going to be about attrition by being physically unprepared, because we haven't talked about that in detail. As always, you can contact us by phone, email, comment system if you have any questions or want to get a hold of us for some reason. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and visit the website at sotfoundation.org.